Hi, Vicky Kelty here, and today's episode is all about getting creative with your listening. So, my listening study stats are 1 hour, I was going to say 1 minute, 1 hour and 2 minutes listening. And that's just what I documented. I also had more time away from the computer that I was listening to TV shows and doing activities, which I will be talking about in a moment. But the amount of time will remain a mystery because I didn't document it. My leisure stats. Um, I did watch a number of French TV shows, but I didn't watch them all in French. I watched a lot of them in the dubbed Spanish version, so I can't count those as my French leisure stats. So I'm going to say that I had about 60 minutes or so that I actually watched in French. And then I also had a conversation in French with my husband one day. So I'm going to count that as well. Now, on to adding some creativity to the listening. Well, I just really was trying not to be like super strict with how I need to do my listening. I think it's more relaxing and more fun for me personally if I kind of throw out the rule book and see what I find enjoyable for my listening practice. So, let's jump in and hear what I did. Maybe it will give you some ideas for how you can be more of a rule breaker with your listening practice and realize that there's not just one way to effectively practice listening in English. Okay. So one of the first things I did was a comprehension practice. So like it was kind of like a typical thing where you listen to something and you have questions that you need to answer. Like that's what we think about when we think of comprehension practice. And so that's what I intended to do going in. And what I decided in the beginning was I'm going to listen to the video. And when I pressed play, I said, you know what? I'm not even going to put on subtitles. I'm just going to see what I understand. So I listened to half of the video and then I was like really, really exhausted. It just wore me out. So I said, okay, well, I'm just going to pause it and I'm going to come back another day. So I wrote when I had stopped listening and I didn't do any of the comprehensive questions. I just left it and that was that. I came back in a couple of weeks and I was ready to go, energized, and I pressed play and I said, "You know what? I'm going to put on the captions and just have some French help from whatever the automatic YouTube transcriber thing gives me." And so I watched the second half of the video using those captions to help me. And then it was time to answer the questions. And I realized that I didn't want to. So instead, I just wrote out a little summary of what I had heard, what I'd understood, and tried to use some of the language that had been in the video. And that was my practice. And that felt really good to me. I didn't feel like doing those comprehension questions. I didn't feel like going back through the video and trying to find the exact thing. I didn't have the answers to it either. And so that wasn't really helpful. So this really made it an enjoyable experience for me. Second listening practice that I did. So I was watching a new TV show and I decided that I wanted to focus on vocabulary. And I thought, okay, how can I watch this TV show and get vocabulary practice out of it? I decided to read the plot of the TV show, get an idea for what like the main topic would be. And this one happened to be about an influencer, like this social media influencer. And I thought, okay, what vocabulary related to social media could possibly come up. So I made a list. I used a dictionary to help me think of words to add to the list. Got all that done, started watching the episode, and it was so fun. It was like my own personal game of bingo because every time that one of the words on my list was in the TV show, I was like, "Oh my gosh, I guessed it. Oh my gosh, they said it again." And I just felt really proud of myself for having been able to guess what words they were gonna be using in the show based on my own knowledge of the topic, my research into the terms that are regularly used. And then I also got to add a ton of words to my list. So I ended up with even more vocabulary that they used in the episode themselves. So it wasn't a translated version, it was the French original version. So then I felt like this is real language that they would use, and I'm getting to hear it in practice, and I'm documenting it, and now I can use it and feel confident that this is what somebody would actually say in French. So that just felt really good. So yeah, I don't know, maybe you're getting some ideas already. And the last one that I'll share with you is I decided to listen to just a little clip of a TV show that I was watching I was actually watching it in Spanish, and I was like, "Okay, let's take advantage of the fact that I'm listening to it in Spanish right now, and instead of punishing myself and making myself feel bad for not listening to the French version, we're gonna just use it." So, um I just pressed play from where I was at. I didn't know exactly what they were gonna say next. And it ended up being the perfect moment because it was just like this daily French conversation, like a greeting. And it wasn't the technical part of the show because we're talking about like one of these detective shows and some of the language they can use, like if they're in the morgue, he's going to use some really technical language that I would probably never need to know. But with this, it was at home. And so they were having a conversation, the father and the daughter, and the father had just come home. So he greeted her and she made a comment about him being late. And I was like, oh my gosh, I think I know how to say this. And so I heard what they said in Spanish, and then said to myself, "Okay, this is what they would have said if it had been in French. This is my guess." And so I wrote down my guess, and then I rewound it, I pressed play, and I changed it to French, and I played it again, and, I only had the subtitles in Spanish because that's the only option I had, but, I was able to see from that little bit, because it was super short, but I was able to see from that little bit that I had got it almost 100% correct, and I was so proud of myself that, like, sometimes we just need to have these really nice little validating activities to let us know that we can understand things in the language that we're learning, and also we can add to our vocabulary, we can add to our pronunciation, and that we can use the skill of listening to improve on these other skills. So, there you have it. Those are the three things that I tried for my listening, and really, they just occurred. So, I went into the listening and I said, I don't want to do it this way. I'm going to try doing it this other way. Didn't make any rules for it, just kind of winged it. Whatever happened, happened. And the next time I do listening, maybe I'll do a more traditional way. Maybe I won't. We'll see. But I hope that this has inspired you to just give some fun and enjoyment to your listening practice, and know that there are so many ways that you can build your listening skills and Um, yeah. So I hope that this has given you some inspiration for what you can do for your own listening practice. And let me know what you think. Has it given you any ideas? What creative way have you thought of to practice your listening for the next time that you do some English listening practice? Be sure to send me an email, hola@vickikelty.com, and let me know. Okay, bye bye for now.